Hello. Welcome on back to my channel. I hope y'all are doing well. The other day I took to Instagram to create this poll right here. You all voted in and wanted me to teach you how to create the Siren makeup look. So without further ado, if you want to learn how I created this look right here, then keep on watching. So to begin, I'm using the Elemis Pro-Collagen Cleansing Balm to prep Liana's skin with. You may have seen me use this over the years because it's such an important part of my process. Most often we think of a cleansing balm to remove the makeup at the end of the day, right? But using it prior to a makeup application, it works wonders by not only cleansing the skin, but also giving it hydration because you see, it starts as a balm, breaking down dirt or anything on top of the skin. But once you start warming it up and massaging it in, it almost becomes this oil-like consistency. And then once you add water to it, it becomes a cleansing milk, which we can then wipe away with a warm washcloth, leaving the skin squeaky clean without stripping it of its natural oils. So now I'm taking the Dipbrow White Truffle Double Layer Revitalizing Serum to hydrate the skin with. This is another skincare product I absolutely love, especially underneath makeup because it's extremely hydrating, but it doesn't weigh the skin down. You know what I mean? Like you get the results of using a hybrid between using a facial oil and a serum, but it's a much thinner consistency, which allows it to absorb into the skin quickly, prepping it beautifully for the makeup we're adding on top. For foundation, I'm using the Estée Lauder Double Wear Foundation and applying this on with a makeup sponge. The shade I'm using here is 4W1, which I think is a pretty good shade match for our model. The thing is, which you may notice here, is that the shade is a little deeper than the skin around the center of her face, like her under eyes, but lighter than the skin surrounding the perimeter of her face, like her forehead. And that's just because, of the way the sun tans up our skin. So I'm using a shade that's somewhat in the middle, and then we'll rely on the highlight and contour to add dimension back in. To contour, I'm using the Tarte Shape Tape Radiant Concealer in the shade 53H and applying this onto the areas I was just referring to. So the forehead, below the cheekbones, and then I'll also use this around the nose. Although I'm not looking for an over-the-top, dramatic contour today, this is enough to add some soft dimension back to the face and give realism to the complexion. What's most important here, and even more important than the product you use, is the time you take to blend it. So I'll leave this footage up here and you can take a look at how I diffuse out this product with a sponge. Now that we have this blended, I'm taking the Natasha Denona Hy-glam Concealer in the shade N8 and using this to highlight the high points of her face with. So applying this to the under eye, brow bone, center of the forehead, and chin before I head back to our sponge to blend it in. I've really been enjoying this concealer lately. It's full coverage, it blends beautifully, it has a satin matte finish, I'd say. Of course, that depends on how you prep your skin. It's long wearing and the shade range is pretty extensive. I might be mistaken, but I believe it's somewhere around 50 shades. But nonetheless, like I was saying with the contour process, blending really is key here. Okay, next I'm taking this Rare Beauty liquid blush in the shade Happy and popping this right onto the cheeks. I love to first apply this on with a brush so I can kind of gauge how much product I'm applying on, and then use my sponge to blend and diffuse it out. As many of you know by now, less is more with this product. It is very pigmented, so take your time applying this on and building it up to your desired result. After this, I'm using the one size setting powders to set and lock the liquid products into place. Now I'm using two different shades of the powders, and I'll explain how I'm going about it. So I'm using the translucent shade, and then I'll use their newest shade, Sweet Honey, which has a warmer golden pigment to it. For the under eye, because I want it to remain bright, I'm mixing equal amounts of the two shades together and pressing it in with my powder puff. But for the rest of the face, I'm using the Sweet Honey shade alone, which will do the job of setting the makeup, but do so while adding in those beautiful golden hues. For those of you who have deeper skin tones, you know already, a translucent powder doesn't always translate as translucent when it's applied. It can sometimes create like a grayish cast to the skin, you know what I mean? So using something that has some pigment in it, especially a warmer golden or peachy pigment such as this, is so important in retaining that beautiful warmth and depth in the skin. And of course, you all know I love to to bake, to really set that makeup into place and to accentuate the highlights around the under eyes, corners of the mouth, and jawline. And this is the same mixture of powders I used to set the under eye a moment ago, about 50% of the Sweet Honey shade and 50% of the translucent shade. Moving right along to the brows, I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Pomade in the shade Soft Brown to lightly fill in and shape her brows with. Leanna really already has some fantastic brows, really, to begin with, so less is more with this product. I'm not looking for a throwback to 2005 with the with the Sharpie brows. You know what I'm talking about? I used to go so crazy with this brow pomade back in the day. Then I took a break from it for a few years, and now it's kind of come full circle. I enjoy using it again, but in a different way for a different result, as you'll see here. Within a few seconds, we add structure and density to the brows, but without overdoing it. Once I filled in the other brow, I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze to lock the brow hairs into place, not necessarily giving it that laminated effect, but just a finishing touch to give it a polished and clean look. To begin on the eye makeup, I'm using this black gel eyeliner from Melt Cosmetics, and I'm running this through the complete waterline from the outer corner to the very inner, before also using this to line her upper lash line with. Now you can use a pencil if you feel more comfortable using that, but I like the precision that a gel liner gets me. And this Siren style of eye makeup kind of requires that. We don't want the liner to travel too far down below the waterline or too high up above the upper lash line. We want to keep it as precise as possible because we want the eye shape to be elongated outwards, so left and right, rather than up and down, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to keep quite a bit of this footage in here so you can see how I build up this shape. What I recommend before you create the wing and all that is you build the foundation of this eye look first by running the liner through the waterline and upper lash line. Then you can get fancy with it by extending the inner corner and the wing of the eyeliner and finessing the details of it. Now, if I wasn't filming and having to do this from the side, I would usually be directly in front of the client and have her look straight ahead to extend the inner corner. I find that to be the best. But if you're watching this wanting to learn how to create it on yourself, I suggest looking straight ahead into a mirror with your elbow on the counter or on your vanity so it's really stable, and then little by little extend the liner to get that sultry feline effect. Next up, using this one-size black liquid eyeliner pen, I'm tracing over the liner and perfecting the shape. Anytime you're doing a look that requires a deep black liner, I always recommend finishing off the gel or pencil liner that you use with a liquid liner. It not only gives a super clean and sharp line, but it really adds density to the black and it intensifies the look. For lashes, I'm starting with the Huda Beauty Legit Lashes Mascara and running this through her top lashes. I'll also run this through her bottom lashes in a moment after I apply on the falsies. The false lashes I end up using are from Ardell. It's from their Active line, I believe it's called. I can't quite remember the name of the exact lash style off the top of my mind, but I'll be sure to include it down below in the description box along with everything else I use, of course. But what I ended up doing is cutting the lash in half and placing it on the outer corner of the eye, which will add to that lifted effect we're going for, but while still keeping it natural looking. And then I'll follow up with mascara through the bottom lashes, but just a tad bit. You don't want to go overboard with lashes and mascara for this look, because remember, we want to focus on extending the eye shape outwards, not up and downwards. So as you see here, I'm brushing off that baking powder, which has left a beautiful hint of brightness to the skin. To begin on the lips, I'm using this Makeup Forever lip pencil in the shade Limitless Brown and using this to line the border of her lips with. I'm going for that moody 90s style of nude lip, and I feel like this look can handle it because the eye makeup is quite simple. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still dramatic, but there's no eyeshadow smoked out or anything like that. It's just eyeliner. I feel like we can play up the lip color here, and it'll tone down in a moment with the products we add on top. For lipstick, I'm using this Kosas Satin Lipstick in the shade Fantasy Life and applying this to the center of the lip and using it to blend the lip liner forward, creating that soft ombre effect. For gloss, I'm using this Anastasia Beverly Hills gloss in the shade Soft Pink and adding this right on top for that high shine finish with a hint of color. What's great about this lip combo is that because it has that ombre effect I was just speaking of, it's pretty low maintenance. You may have to touch it up with gloss as the day goes on, but otherwise it wears really, really well. Next up, I'm taking this Dior Backstage blush in the shade Coral and popping this onto the apples of the cheeks and under eye to complement the liquid blush we used earlier in the tutorial, and to also add a slight peachy, sun-kissed hue to the complexion, which I think really complements her, don't you think? All we gotta do now is reach for the Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray to set and lock this makeup into place, which makes this the final step in how we created the Siren style makeup look on our naturally beautiful model. I hope you all enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, be sure to give this video a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out more of my work on my Instagram at Painted by Spencer. And until next time, I'll see you soon.